Today we are going to continue with chapter 9, which is application international trade. And in this chapter we are going to look for the answers to these questions. What determines how much of a good a country will import or export? Who benefits from trade? Who does trade harm? Do the gains outweigh the losses? If policymakers restrict imports, who benefits? Who is harmed? Do the gains from restricting imports outweigh the losses? And the last one, we are going to look at what are some common arguments for restricting trade. Do they have merit? So let's make an introduction. First, we are going to recall chapter 3, which is about comparative advantage. A country has a comparative advantage in a good if it produces the good at a lower opportunity cost than other countries, and countries can gain from trade if each exports the goods in which it has a comparative advantage. So now we are going to apply the welfare of economics to see where these gains come from and who gets them. And let's look at first the world price and comparative advantage. The PW means world price and PD means domestic price. So if domestic price is less than world price, country has a comparative advantage in the good. Under free trade, country exports the good. And if price of domestic price is greater than world price, country does not have a comparative advantage. Under free trade, country imports the good. And the small economy assumptions, a small economy is a price taker. Price taker means the government sets the price and the economy, the participants in the economy accept the price. So its actions have no effect on world price. So this is not always true, especially for the United States, but simplifies the analysis without changing its lessons. When a small economy engages in free trade, world price is the only relevant price. No seller would accept the price if it is less than world price, since she could sell the good for world price in world markets, and no buyer would pay more than world price, since he could buy the good for world price in world markets. So this is our example about soybeans. This is our market. We have supply and demand. And without trade, equilibrium price, which we call this one domestic price, equal to $4. And equilibrium quantity equal to 500. And when we have a world price of $6, which is above the world price, above the domestic price, sorry. Under free trade, domestic consumers demand 300 and domestic producers supply 750, as you see on the supply curve. So we have here exports equal to 450, because 750 minus 300 equal to export amount, which is 450. And we have without trade, consumer surplus equal to A plus B, and producer surplus equal to C, and total surplus equal to A plus B plus C. So with trade, consumer surplus equal to A, because when price increases to $6, then consumer surplus equal to the amount of A, and then producer surplus equal to the amount of B plus C plus D. So total surplus equal to A plus B plus C plus D. And you see after a trade, total surplus from A plus B plus C increases to A plus B plus C plus D. So we mean the area of A, area of B, area of C and D. If you see the area, if it's a triangle area, you are going to calculate the area of a triangle equal to base times height divided by 2. If this area is a rectangle, you are going to calculate the area of a rectangle, or let's say square. It is base times height. So the gains from trade equal to the area of D, you see. This is the gains from trade. And let's have an analysis of trade. So without trade, price domestic equal to 3,000 and quantity equal to 400. And in world markets, if price of world markets of these plasma TVs equal to 1,500, this means this country must import the goods. And here says under free trade, how many TVs will the country import or export? So this means the amount of import equal to 600 minus 200, which is 400. So let's identify consumer surplus, producer surplus, and total surplus. So as I said, imports equal to 400 because 600 minus 200 equal to 400. And consumer surplus without trade equal to A, the area of A. And producer surplus without trade equal to B plus C. But after a trade, let's say total surplus here equal to A plus B plus C. But after a trade, consumer surplus equal to the amount of A plus B plus D, the whole triangle. Producer surplus equal to the area of C. And the total surplus equal to the area of A plus B plus C plus D. So after a trade, in here, in terms of imports, the total surplus, the total gains, rises from A plus B plus C to A plus B plus C plus D. So the amount of gains from imports equal to the area of D. So here, the welfare effects of trade, this is a summary. If price domestic is less than world price, direction of trade is exports. Consumer surplus falls, producer surplus rises, and total surplus rises. But if domestic price is greater than world price, direction of trade is imports. Consumer surplus rises, producer surplus falls, and total surplus rises. So whether a good is imported or exported, trade creates winners and losers, but the gains exceeds the losses. So other benefits of international trade: consumers enjoy increased variety of goods, producers sell to larger market, may achieve lower cost by producing on a larger scale, competition from abroad may reduce market power of domestic firms, which would increase total welfare. So trade enhances the flow of ideas, facilitates the spread of technology around the world. So then why all the opposition to trade? Let's recall chapter 1, trade can make everyone better off. And here the gains and losers. The winners from trade could compensate the losers and still be better off, yet such compensation rarely occurs. The losers are often highly concentrated among a small group of people who feel them acutely. The gains are often spread thinly over many people who may not see how trade benefits them. Hence, the losers have more incentive to organize and lobby for restrictions on trade. So tariff, an example of a trade restriction. We have tariff is a tax on imports. Example, cotton shirts, price, world price equal to 20, tariff equal to $10 per shirt. So consumers must pay $30 for an imported shirt. So domestic producers can charge $30 per shirt. So in general, the price facing domestic buyers and sellers equals world price plus tariff. So this is analysis of a tariff on cotton shirts. Let's see what happens after a free trade. Okay, let's skip this one, analysis of tariff on shirts. So import quota is a quantitative limit on imports of a good and mostly has the same effects as a tariff. Raises price, reduces quantity of imports and reduces buyers' welfare, increases sellers' welfare. So a tariff creates revenue for the government. It's a quota creates profits for the foreign producers of the imported goods who can sell them at higher price. Or government could auction licenses to import to capture this profit as revenue. Usually it doesn't. So the arguments, we have jobs arguments. So these United States imports and unemployment. Arguments for restricting trade. The second one is the national security argument. Okay, let's skip these. So we finished this chapter with the arguments. Now we are going to move to chapter 10. The chapter 10 is about externalities. We have in this chapter look for the answers to these questions. What is an externality? Why do externalities make market outcomes inefficient? What public policies aim to solve the problem of externalities? How can people sometimes solve the problem of externalities on their own? Why do such private solutions not always work? So let's make an introduction. What is an externality? Externality is a one type of market failure. It is the uncompensated impact of one person's actions on the well-being of a bystander. We have two kinds of externality. We have negative externality and positive externality. Negative externality has adverse effect on bystander. Example, we have air pollution from a factory, the neighbor's barking dog, late night stereo blasting from the dorm room next to yours, noise pollution from construction projects, health risk to others from secondhand smoke. Talking on cell phone while driving makes the roads less safe for others. Let's look at the recap of welfare economics. This is the negative externality effect on the market for gasoline. So we have demand curve, which we call this curve private value. And we have supply curve, shows private cost. And the market equilibrium maximizes consumer plus producer surplus. We have supply, which we call this one private cost. And we have external cost equal to the value of the negative impact on bystanders. For this market, we assume the negative effect equal to $1 per gallon. This is the value of harm from smoke, greenhouse gases. So after negative externality, we are going to shift the supply curve to the up or to the left. So the external, this is the effect of external cost. So after a negative externality, social cost equal to private plus external cost. So this is the analysis of negative externality, as you see. And one solution to the negative externality is tax sellers, and the tax amount equal to the negative effect on the market, which is here $1 per gallon, would shift S-curve up by $1. So what is internalizing the externality? It is altering incentives so that people take account of the external effects of their actions. In our example, the $1 per gallon tax on sellers makes sellers' cost equal to social cost. And when market participants must pay social cost, market equilibrium must equal to social optimum. And we have positive externalities. These have beneficial effect on a bystander. And like, for example, here, research and development creates knowledge people for the others can use. People going to college raises the population education level, which reduces crime and improves government. So after a positive externality, what happened to the market? Let's see. This is analysis of positive externality, which is the market for flu shots. After an external benefit, which equal to $10 per shot, you are going to shift the demand curve to the right, which we are going to draw the social value curve. Then we are going to find the socially optimal quantity, and to internalize the positive externality, we are going to use subsidy. So after a positive externality, as you see, demand curve shifts to the up to the right by the value of the private value, the external benefit, which is here private value plus $10 external benefit. And to internalize the social optimal quantity equal to where the new demand curve and supply curve intersect, which is at 25, quantity at 25. And to internalize the externality, we are going to use subsidy. And the amount of subsidy equal to the external benefit, which is $10 per shot. So effects of externalities is the summary. If negative externality, market quantity larger than socially desirable. If positive externality, market quantity smaller than socially desirable. To remedy the problem, in other words, to internalize the externality, tax goods with negative externalities and subsidize goods with positive externalities. So public policies toward externalities, we have command and control policies, market-based policies, and then we have corrective taxes and subsidies, and then we have private solutions. Let's look at the private solutions. Let's skip these. Okay. We have private solutions. Let's see. We're going to skip this quickly. Okay, private solutions to externalities. We have types of private solutions. We have moral codes and social sanctions, example, the Golden Rule. We have charities, example, the Sierra Club. We have contracts between market participants and the affected bystanders. And we have the cost theorem, which is if private parties can costlessly bargain over the allocation of resources, they can solve the externalities problem on their own. And this is an example. We have a Dix owns a dog named Spot, and negative externality here is the barking dog. And if the private parties, the private market will reach the efficient outcome on its own without the government, we call this one cost theorem. So we finish this chapter, and we are going to finish the lecture today from here. So next lecture we are going to continue from chapter 11, and then we are going to continue. So that's all for today.